everyone, welcome to Studio Sunday. Well, I'm back from Austin where I saw the total solar eclipse. It was absolutely amazing and really did get pitch black. It's very eerie. And believe it or not, no aliens landed. JFK Jr. did not come back from the dead. But the birds did stop flying and the dog wouldn't come out of the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we were at a friend's river house, and the crickets stopped and the frogs stopped. It was very eerie.
Interesting.
And it took about 4 minutes for that to happen, the totality. And the minute it came back, the birds started flying again and the crickets started chirping.
It's amazing how they turn on and off.
Yeah.
I had read that in the zoos, the animals got quiet.
It was a lot of fun. It was. Okay, but back in the studio, we're working on the surveys for our recent Kickstarter, The Really Complete Paradise 2, and they will go out in a couple of weeks, so we'll alert you to when that's happening, but it'll be a couple of weeks yet. And we're also working hard on the next Terry Moore Live coming up April 26th through the 28th, 2 weeks. Lots of new art, sketches, and live streams with Terry that weekend. Are you ready?
I'm almost ready.
Well, you have to be ready, not almost.
I'll be ready on the day.
Okay. Also, Studio Sunday will be live on our YouTube channel at noon Central that Sunday. I promise I'll try not to be in my jammies, but there's always a possibility.
She has nice jammies.
And Free Comic Book Day is fast approaching on Saturday, May 4th, I believe. Mm-hmm. Terry will be in Dalton, Georgia at the Battlegrounds Games and Comics along with Adam Hughes and Joe Linsner. So if you're in the area, stop by and say hi, pick up a free comic, and enjoy some of the activities the store has planned. I think it's going to be a big event.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And the lady who's putting it on knows how to put these things on, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, Bonnie's a go-getter.
Mm-hmm.
Terry is also developing his new project. Hopefully he will have something to tell you during Terry Moore Live.
We'll see.
Yet another reason to stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Moore?
Well, you touched on the two things in my life that are all-consuming right now, which is the new book. I'm kind of working on designs and characters and the story and the plot and how it all works. And the Terry Moore sketches, making them just...
You love to count them, don't you?
I do love to count them.
Look, I now have 20.
I have 21. So yes, and both of those things make me very happy.
Okay, well, let's get on the hot seat.
Okay.
This is very timely. When developing a new character or series, how do you approach the blank page? My fear of copying someone else's work paralyzes me and I can't seem to get past it. Where you have to look for inspiration, but then you have to be able to develop your own world.
That's right. This is a fantastic question because, yes, the only reason we eventually want to create something is because we were inspired by other creations we saw and loved and adored, and they inspire you. And then when it's time for you to sit down and not just make your version of their thing or copy them because you want to love how to copy it, suddenly you want to do your own thing, you're suddenly looking for your own voice, your own look. And
how do you find that?
You find it by going ahead, and if you have to draw, say John Byrne, say you like the artist John Byrne, you go ahead and draw 100 John Byrne looking characters and just keep drawing it and work your way through it, and then you'll start recognizing that John Byrne jaw every time you do it, and you'll start modifying it. That John Byrne nose, and then you'll start modifying it. And you'll know the difference between your jaw and the John Byrne jaw. And you could use whatever artist you want to use. But don't be afraid to never again let a John Byrne or your favorite artist show up on the page. Go ahead and let it happen, and then do a second version and do it your way. And then look at the two side by side. One good analogy for this is Oscar Peterson, the jazz pianist. said, look at the keyboard. There's only so many notes, and they've all been there since the beginning. So you're not going to find a new note. It's what you do with the notes that becomes you. And it's the same way with the drawing. There's only so many ways to draw the human body, but you can put together all of your influences and come up with a new recipe that is all yours. And it happens every day. Every day somebody finds a new way to draw a hand, you know.
Oh, I hope they're not drawing the lobster hand.
There's the lobster hands that who was it that did the lobster hand?
You.
I don't know. It wasn't me. I was copying.
You love the lobster hand.
I was copying that from somebody else. But that's why you have the famous, John Byrne hands, and then the Ditko hands and all that. We haven't even touched all the ways to have, ninja hands and everything. So yeah.
That's a ninja hand?
That's the dragon of death thing to the neck. Yeah. So don't let it bum you out. Work your way through it. It's like music. You go ahead and play that stuff, learn it, play it over and over. And when you get tired of it, you'll start your new thing.
That could take years.
No, but it does take hours. You're not gonna get past all this in 1 week of drawing. You need to draw, and that's why the people the more you draw, the better you get. It's not just about like how good your line is. It's also about how original your line is, and by spending putting in the time and the hours, you get to a place that's all yours. And it's that way with art, with writing, literature, music. That's how you do it. You put in the hours.
Okay, well, I hope that answers the question.
Hope it does too. Good luck.
Okay, that's it for me. What are you drawing today?
So this is why I'm so pleased with the question. I keep showing you my bookshelves, and I keep talking about the people that influenced me. And last night I put the camera up in front of my bookshelf with my favorite books, my favorite creators, my mentors, the ones who inspired me. And I want to show you where my influence is and why I love each book that's up on the shelf and how I used it to develop my style. So it's a perfect segue.
Okay.
So meet me over there. Okay, so this is the side of the bookshelf for the people that I adore in comics. That side over there is my books. This side is my mentors, my teachers, my friends. These are the people that I love and adore. And I thought I should share this with you and let you see what I think is just wonderful in comics. Okay, starting down here on this shelf, I have probably the first 5 books here by the wonderful Mr. Frank Cho. The man is a master, both in paint and in line work. Oh yeah. This man knows more about Franklin Booth than I do, and I adored Franklin Booth and all the illustrators for the magazines that had to work in pen and ink. There's some not safe for work stuff in here. Maybe I can show you this part right there. The man is a master, and he's a funny guy. The most funniest guy I've ever been on a panel with. He has no filter. He just says what he thinks, and I've seen him on panels make audiences gasp and then giggle. He just cracks me up. He's a funny guy. Stan Sakai, of course. One of the nicest men I've ever met in comics. And I've never been to lunch or anything with him, but a wonderful man. Frank Frazetta, I guess everybody in comics probably, especially my age, has a Frazetta start in their life. Seeing the stuff that he did. These illustrations were incredible. Mr. Bruce Timm. a masterful cartoonist with a very unique style. In his version of Batman, the Joker, and Harley Quinn, called Mad Love, that short story that he did, Paul Dini wrote it and Bruce illustrated it. It's a classic. And yeah, pretty cool. Mucha, the master of Art Nouveau. He was such a wonderful artist. If you have not already gone through your Art Nouveau period, I envy you. When you start diving into these things. I got to do an exhibit in Paris where they were featuring Mucha, and then there was, at the end of the exhibit, there were artwork by contemporary artists that had been influenced by him. And I was one of the artists that got to hang artwork in that. Adam Hughes was also in that one, by the way. So Robyn and I went and visited the exhibit. So glad we did. And speaking of Adam, of course, just savant, brilliant, genius, wonderful painter. Mr. Dave Stevens. From what? The Rocketeer, that's what. You may have seen or not seen the movie yet, but you will. It's really a fun movie with the beautiful Jennifer Connelly playing Jenny. And, but yeah, Dave was... And Dave turned out to befriend the retired Betty Page and help bring her back to more of a contemporary audience. So it was pretty cool. The Rocketeer, that's the story you want to read by Dave, if you haven't read him yet. Mr. Alex Ross, of course. Of course. Any man who can paint that must have your full attention. He was the first guy I've ever seen show a fight in between the skyscrapers in New York, in Manhattan. There's a fight going on like 60 stories up, 100, 70 stories up. And every single comic ever in history stayed outside, getting outside camera angles on that, until Alex did Marvels. And he was the one who showed us what it looked like to see Spider-Man. You're standing in an office, a 72nd floor office with all glass, and Spider-Man is stuck to the window, and here comes the Goblin throwing pumpkins, and you're looking from the people's view through that window. And it made the whole thing seem so real. Suddenly Spider-Man was real. Suddenly those big fights were very realistic because finally it was from our point of view. Alex is the first person I've ever seen ever to show us fantasy from our point of view. The man is a genius. The fact that he did it with hyperrealism, of course, is just a wonderful side note. The man who excelled at fantasy, Jeffrey Jones, he has a big influence on a lot of artists today. And he had a strip called Idol, and this strip was in National Lampoon, which was a collection of brilliant, eccentric writers with Ivy League educations who wanted to write satire. And then at the back of the monthly magazine, National Lampoon, would be things like one-page cartoons by people like Jeffrey Jones. And that's where I first met him, so I'm in awe. So, yeah, National Lampoon. You probably heard of the movie, but you may not realize it. It was an actual magazine. Yeah, very politically incorrect even in its day, in the 70s. But so, I don't know, your eyeballs may set fire if you try to read it now. But that's where I discovered like Gan Wilson. He did a little thing about a little boy called Nuts. Yeah, it was just something. Something to check out. Who do we have? Oh, my favorite comic that I think I've ever read by Kenji Tsuruta. This is Hydrogen, but it features the same lady, Spirit of Wonder. And it is my favorite manga ever, if you can call it manga. It just goes so far beyond that. Spirit of Wonder. There's a movie. I think I've seen it. But the book is just magic. The book is absolute magic. Spirit of Wonder. Aw. This crazy lady, Amanda Connor, so brilliant. Absolute wonderful cartoonist. And so full of life. And she and her soulmate, Jimmy Palmiotti, are inseparable. Amanda has such an irreverent sense of humor. She's so funny. And she has a big body of work. And worked her butt off in mainstream comics and alternate comics for quite some time. And still going today. Still going strong. And next to Amanda, I have the Dream Maker, Charles Vess. And this man is king of the fairies. And I mean that in the real mythical lore sense. I mean, this man owns the fantasy domain now. If you think of fantasy illustration as starting with, say, like I do, Arthur Rackham at the turn of the 20th century, I think Charles is carrying that torch for us now. And he has given us so much work, so many illustrations. And it's not just in comics, but he also illustrates the fantasy writers in the novels, the books, with chapter headings and spot illustrations and all that. He has some beautiful books. Plus, Charles writes himself. He is a writer as well. And he has written some beautiful fantasy books. And I have those up there as well. But you may know him, of course, from Sandman and Stardust. He is one of Neil's favorite illustrators. And you can see why Charles and Neil get along. Isn't this cool? I mean, these people are all so different. Their work is so different. Okay, you want to go 180 degrees different? Doug Snade. My favorite cartoonist from the Playboy era. Playboy was Hugh Hefner, had something of a cartoonist background. He was an amateur cartoonist himself back in college. And so one of the things that Playboy was known for is being a good paying job for cartoonists. And all throughout the magazine would be little spot cartoons. And then there were only maybe 1, 2, 3, I don't remember, people who got a full page cartoon. And those were prime spots. And this would be like a full page cartoon that Doug Snade would do. And see his signature? For my entire amateur life, I thought that said F-R-E-Y-D. I thought, who's this Frayed guy? Where's he from? Why are these things so cute and so pretty? And then finally at San Diego Comic-Con one year, I got to meet the cartoonist, and it's Doug Snade. I just didn't read his signature right. Okay, here's what's impressive about being a Playboy cartoonist. This was back, like in the 70s and 80s. Way back then, considering inflation and everything, way back then, a spot cartoon I heard was paid $300 to $600 for, just something that a cartoonist might draw in just a few minutes. The full page color cartoon, the full page, $6,000 is what I heard was paid to the cartoonist that would do a full page. And Doug had one every month. Not that I personally checked every single month. I didn't have a subscription, but he was a stalwart. That was his thing. So, yeah. I'm so glad I got to meet the man, and he is just the sweetest man you've ever met in your life. Just absolutely sweet man from Canada. A total gentleman who just adores, life and the ladies. Next to Doug, I have Jeff. Jeff's just trouble. That's what he is. He's just trouble. Next to Jeff, I have this classic figure drawing book from the 1940s, I think, from Andrew Loomis. And this was given to me by Charles Vess. I guess he thinks I need work. I need to practice. But this was an old legendary training book for all artists, World War II and post-World War II. Up to the modern era. before the internet, you needed books, and this was one of the classics. Let me show you this. Hero Bear by Mike Conkle. Mike Conkle is an animator who went on to make comics back when it was possible for somebody to show up with a beautiful looking comic and everybody would pay attention and you could actually sell it in the stores. And that's what happened with Hero Bear. And he did this beautiful idea of spot red on the cape of the little bear when it became the hero. Just everybody absolutely adored this book. This book was huge while it was in production. And but comics is a crazy business, and Mike has maybe kept just a toe in the business, but he went back to animation, where it's a much better career, I guess. But his company was called The Astonished Factory, and I guess you can still go there and visit him. Once in a while, I still hear from Mike. He's again one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. Wally Wood, Mad Magazine. Love that. Mike Mignola, Hellboy. I don't know of anybody else who came up with sort of semi-indie, semi-alternative, the most successful one of them all. He's got such a brilliant design mind. Every illustrator probably has this book on their shelf. Robert McGinnis, he was the bad girl illustrator for all the magazines that wrote detective stories and James Bond movie posters. That's Robert McGinnis. You've probably seen his work. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram or things like that. Like all the other illustrators, just absolutely a brilliant artist to begin with. And the fact that he would do the cover for a Robert B. Parker book, the latest thriller or whatever. So cool. One more to show you. Dean Yeagle. You're seeing a lot of bad girl art here, aren't you? Good girl art, bad girl. Dean is legendary among all the illustrators. And I think it was the last time I was at a show, Dean was still there. So you can still, there's the classic Marilyn Monroe pose with his girl, Mandy. And the reason why you see all these illustrators like this here is because I come from a background where I absolutely adored this guy's classic, Gil Elfgren. It all starts with that book. Just loving the great American illustrators. So yeah, and this book features several of the iconic people of the 20th century. So yeah, that's just the first row. How bloody cool is that? If you don't have any of these books, I hope that this will inspire you to go check them out. There's many more up here. I love all these people. Alan Moore. So I got to illustrate an Alan Moore story one time, and it was for an anthology magazine. And Alan had written a story, like a 5-page short story, a lot of prose and poetry. And I got the lucky assignment to draw it. Well, I was reading through the script, and I didn't understand everything. I didn't understand his references and some of it. And I called the publisher, and I said, can I talk to Alan and ask him questions? And they gave me his phone number. So I called his house in England. There was a time when you could do this. I called his house and the telephone rings and it sounded just like the Pink Floyd album. Like that. The line picks up like it's a landline. And I hear this super deep voice that, hello? And I said, hi, this is Terry Moore from the United States, and I'm drawing your story. And I just had a few questions about some of the phrases and some of the words that you have in the story. I don't really understand what they are. He goes, oh, okay. And he starts immediately reading the story from the first word to the last word. And I was going to ask spot questions, and suddenly I'm listening to this wonderful voice read the entire short story to me over the phone. And I shut up and I listened for about 10 minutes. And after that, he really wasn't up for questions. And then he said, I hope that helps. And I'm off to for a cup of tea or whatever. And I said, thank you so much. And I got off the phone and I realized that was a really fun, cool experience moment. And I asked somebody else that I knew, what are all these references over here mean? I had another English friend I could ask. And so yeah, I eventually found out what it all meant. This was a cup of tea, that's a cozy, that's a clock from 19th century, whatever. And I managed to get the story drawn. And yeah, it was a great experience. And that was my run-in with Alan Moore. Really a wonderful experience. I'm lucky to have had it. So I keep Alan right here next to the man who started my love for illustration, which is Arthur Rackham, of course. Arthur Rackham illustrated all the fairy tales that were read to me as a little boy in his very subdued watercolors that had a lot of yellows and greens. This fixated into my mind what fairyland was and what fantasy was. Arthur Rackham, that's kind of where it started for me. I went from Arthur Rackham to Tintin to the good girl stuff from my teens on up, and admired all these guys. You put all that stuff together and you get Strangers in Paradise and my whole career. So yeah, these books, these creators, they mean the world to me. I love these people. I love what they did. I'm so glad they were on this planet. And many of them I lived during their production time. I lived during their era, and I got to meet them, and I'm so grateful for that. And that's probably the one thing I'm the most grateful for in my career, is being able to actually meet these people who touched my heart. It's cool. So I hope this has inspired you to go find some of these books. And if you find them, share them with the people you know and love, and spread the good news. All right.